This morning, the first openly non-binary lawmaker in Massachusetts history taking a leave of absence from their post.
We're talking about Worcester City Councilor at large Thu Nguyen says it's to focus on their mental health, saying they faced a discriminatory and toxic culture on the council.
Mr. Chairman, under your leadership, I have felt unsafe around this council body. I have faced transphobia with being misgendered and recently learned that I have been dehumanized to a point where I'm being referred to as it by my colleagues on this council.
Councilor Nguyen made those comments at a city council meeting Tuesday night. Nguyen also said they attend the council meetings via Zoom because they feel unsafe at City Hall. Those comments came in response to a review of remote participation during meetings. Nguyen has filed a complaint and formally requested the city's chief equity officer open an investigation. Also, Councilor Candy Merrill Carlson.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about a couple of stories involving a couple of individuals who happen to be in the Democrat Party, okay? Now, the first story that we're going to talk about here is a local story out of Massachusetts, Worcester City. Their councilor at large, Thu Nguyen, who happens to be the first openly non-binary elected official in Massachusetts, who has already quit. Well, not quit, but it seems like they're quitting. They've taken a month away from their office, right, from their elected position, due to the quote-unquote toxic cancel culture, right, aka the toxic culture that is happening at their workplace, okay? And they're complaining about being misgendered. And I want to talk about this story because I think that if anybody else did this, right, if this was somebody of any other identity, okay, aka a what they call cis individual, right, I don't think this would be acceptable. But let's go ahead and get into the story so that you guys understand exactly what I'm talking about.
That city councilor filing a complaint with Worcester's Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and they're taking a month-long break. They say it's for emotional and mental safety. Worcester City Councilor at large Thu Nguyen taking a month-long mental health break, accusing the mayor and council of a toxic culture. Nguyen uses the pronouns they, them, and says it's not safe to show up to meetings in person.
I really wished I felt safe enough to show up on the council floor, but I don't.
Last night, when talking about remote participation, Nguyen accused the mayor and another councilor, Kathleen Toomey, of using the wrong pronouns. Nguyen also says Councilor Candy Merrill Carlson repeatedly called them it.
I have faced transphobia with being misgendered and recently learned that I have been dehumanized to a point where I'm being referred to as it by my colleagues on this council.
Councilor Toomey says early on when the councilor was elected, I did make an honest error in addressing the councilor and may have done so a few times, for which I apologized. There has never been any intentional or consistent misgendering. I have been mindful to address the councilor respectfully in the manner in which they identify over the past 3 years.
I have spoken with city staff who've confirmed that Councilor Nguyen was referred to as an it by a councilor.
Councilor Christian King troubled by what he's heard.
I condemn and disavow any sort of political hostility based on someone's being.
Now, Councilor Merrill Carlson telling us, while I do not recall making the statements in question, I acknowledge that it was a challenging and emotional week where difficult conversations took place. These claims, however, misrepresent my character, my record, and the values I have consistently upheld. We did reach out to the mayor, and we also reached out to Councilor Nguyen, but did not hear back from either. The city manager's office confirms an investigation is underway. We're live in Worcester, Charmin Skiddy, WC.
Wow. That's what I got to say about this. That's my immediate reaction. Just wow. Once again, a story involving voters deciding that they want to make history. And you end up electing somebody who can't stomach being called things that they don't like. And then they basically quit, right? They quit. And one of the reasons why I'm covering this story is because this is a great example to young people on how to not handle adversity, right? Because a lot of people like to boohoo, whine, and cry about bigotry and hate, racism, transphobia, blah, 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 blah. The solution to that is not what this individual is doing, okay? Just because your feelings are hurt, that doesn't mean that you should quit because you were elected to do a job for your constituents. I mean, who knows? In this case, they may have elected this individual solely to make history, right? They might not have had actual high expectations for this individual to get the job done. I don't know. But regardless, to step away from your job because you're being called mean things that you don't like, that's just not a good example of leadership, and probably makes it a lot harder for others who are like yourself to come in and to be inspired to run for office, right? When you end up stepping away like this, because it just shows that you just don't have what it takes to push through controversy and adversity, right? Which is something, this is a trait that all leaders need, okay? You can't just fold because you feel like the workplace is toxic, right? You just can't fold. You're an elected leader. Guys, could you imagine if President Trump folded because the Democrats kept calling him Hitler or Orange Man or the Antichrist? All things that he has been called, by the way. What if he just folded? What if he just quit? He wouldn't be president of the United States. He wouldn't be successful. And to be honest with you, I would much rather be misgendered, quote unquote, than to be called Hitler, right? I think being called Hitler is much worse than being misgendered. Did Trump fold and then boohoo, whine, and cry and say, I need to take a month off? I need to step away? No. He kept fighting. He kept pushing through. That's what he did. And look at the result. I'm just saying, this to me is just not a good example of leadership. That's my main takeaway from this. But hey, the residents had to make history. They had to make history, right? This is what people are voting based off of. And you're getting a similar result almost every time. Speaking of making history, we have to talk about a story involving Congress and history being made in Congress with the election of Sarah McBride, who just got appointed to a leadership position within the Democrat Party. Although this individual is a freshman congressperson who hasn't done anything yet at all, but yet they already have a leadership position within the Democrat Party. And again, just in case you guys are unfamiliar with Sarah McBride, here's a video.
Johnny and Tracy, Congresswoman-elect Sarah McBride took the train from Wilmington to Washington today. It's a trip President Biden has taken many times before. Now McBride is starting a new journey and bringing change to Washington. At the train station named after Delaware's most famous politician, Congresswoman-elect Sarah McBride getting ready to follow the same tracks to Washington.
I'm excited to get on the Amtrak train here at the Joseph R. Biden Jr. train station.
McBride today alongside family, including her two young nieces, taking the same trip as Delaware members of Congress who have come before her. As a senator, Joe Biden rode Amtrak to D.C. Here he is with members of the Delaware delegation on the day he became vice president. McBride served in the Delaware General Assembly and has known Biden for years.
I know I will continue to rely on President Biden for advice and for guidance moving forward.
McBride is making history as the first openly transgender member of Congress. Even before taking the oath, her election prompting Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace to push to prevent transgender women from using women's bathrooms at the Capitol.
Are you concerned at all that there could be more things like that that could make it more difficult for you to do your job?
Well, I actually don't think what we saw happen during orientation with an individual member of the Republican conference focusing in inexplicably on bathrooms as a top priority for the new Republican conference, that didn't impact my ability to do my job.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Okay, this individual made history, okay, by being the first transgender individual elected to Congress. Now, they don't have any experience in Congress. This person has experience in the Delaware General Assembly, but no congressional experience whatsoever. And for whatever reason, Democrats decided to give this individual a leadership position. They have appointed this person to become the Democratic deputy whip for policy. Deputy whip. Now, what is a whip? What is a whip? What is a whip? A party whip is a member of party leadership in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. Both the majority whip and the minority whip seek to align rank and file members of their political party around a shared agenda and way of voting. Specifically, the party whip coordinates with other party leaders to make sure that all of their lawmakers vote the same way on a specific piece of legislation. The name whip comes from the fox hunting term whipper in, the person who corrals foxhounds. So, more specifically, a deputy party whip on both sides of the U.S. Capitol, a party's chief whip may have several deputy whips to corral specific members of their legislative caucus. For example, Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives may need to reach out to moderates in a Democratic caucus known as the Blue Dog Coalition and progressives known as Justice Democrats. The Democratic whip may rely upon different deputy whips to lobby these two groups of legislators to approach key issues from different perspectives. Yeah, so here's the thing. What I find to be fascinating about this is, one, again, this individual was put into this position with no experience whatsoever in U.S. Congress, okay? Again, has some experience at the state level, but again, not in U.S. Congress. Now, if somebody says DEI, these people will be boohoo, whining, crying, hating bigotry. But yet, these are the same people that are calling Pete Hegseth DEI, okay? This is what they're doing. But furthermore, I guarantee you, all of these people who are always boohoo, whining, and crying about privilege and how certain minority groups don't get opportunities, although they are very qualified for leadership positions, I guarantee you they're going to be silent. They're not going to say a damn thing about this. They're not going to say, oh, well, what about a black member of Congress who has been in Congress for years who could have this type of leadership position? They're not going to say anything about that. They're not going to say anything about that at all. Now, there are no other members in Congress that are trans, so it's not like this person is going to be whipping up transgender members to vote on a piece of legislation. Clearly, this person is probably going to be reaching out to the progressive wing of the Democrat Party, right? You didn't have a black person that could do that, right? You didn't have some other minority that could do that could get that opportunity. I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying. But then again, you have so-called soul sisters like Jasmine Crockett that say, hey, well, the plight of black people and the plight of trans people, it's the same, right? It's the same.
Let me tell you something. Y'all need to find some people that actually care about their constituents. And honestly, whenever y'all are ready to work, we on this side of the aisle have always been ready to do what is right by the American people. Instead, what you can continue to do is go after the most vulnerable in our country. The fact that you just sat up there and somehow figured out how to tie trans folk to your argument makes no sense to me. But let me tell you something. Trans people ain't going nowhere. Just like when the racists wanted to make sure that black people somehow were going to be dismissed in this country. We ain't left either. And I'll yield.
Would you yield back?
I'll yield.
Yeah, this is great. That's what I think about this, guys, right? I think Sarah McBride being in this position is great. It is great for Republicans, okay? Because Democrats are letting the world know that, hey, this is our leadership, right? This is our party, okay? This is who we are going to allow to lead us into the future. Somebody who, in my opinion, again, it has nothing to do with this person's identity at all. Has everything to do with the experience and qualifications, YouTube, right? Don't get it twisted in regards to what I'm saying here. All I'm saying is that based off this person's experience, hey, if you want to put this person in a leadership position, great. I'm all for it, Democrats. I'm all for it. In fact, you should put all the so-called minorities in leadership positions, okay? I am advocating for Democrats to put the least experienced minorities in all positions of power, right? Please do that. Double and triple down on that, Democrats. I would love to see it, okay? So again, this is great. I'm actually celebrating this. I think this is an amazing development. I am wishing Sarah McBride the best in their leadership position because making history is important. It is extremely important. It's something that Democrats seem hell-bent to do, regardless of whether or not it is actually something that will benefit their party in the long run. But hey, it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.